on CMV in active colitis. For chairing this, we have with us Dr. Sandeep Dhawan, an eminent gastroenterologist from Chandigarh. We have Dr. A.K. Sharma, who is a professor of gastroenterology and has a keen interest in microbiology and virology. And we have Dr. Nitin Jagtap, who is a consultant at Asian Institute of Gastroenterology. Now, since we are already running short of time, I have requested the chairpersons that we may not have any questions for the next 4 sessions. Thank you so much. Over to you, Dr. Dhawan.
Good afternoon, everyone. At the outset, I'd like to congratulate Dr. Vishal, Professor Usha, and Professor Kocher for organizing this wonderful academic bonanza. So without wasting time, I'll request Dr. Saurabh to kindly discuss CMV in active colitis, treat or not. Over to Dr. Saurabh.
Sorry, they are not audible.
Am I audible now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So sorry for the glitch. So thank you, chairpersons, and my sincere thanks to Professor Kocher, Dr. Usha, and Dr. Vishal for this opportunity. So I have to talk about a very pertinent question which troubles all the gastroenterologists. That is the association of cytomegalovirus and ulcerative colitis.
Dr. Saurabh, you are not visible.
Just a second. Am I visible now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So over the next 15 minutes, I would like to answer the following questions, which would then clarify our concept on CMV and UC. So is the prevalence of CMV higher in patients with ulcerative colitis? If it is so, then why is it high? Then is CMV an innocent bystander, or is it a marker of severe disease, or it's itself pathogenic? Is CMV associated with poor outcomes in patients with ulcerative colitis? How do I diagnose CMV colitis? What is the role of antiviral treatment, and does it change the outcomes? And how to approach a patient with ulcerative colitis and CMV infection. So coming on, I'll start off with brief definitions. So we all know that cytomegalovirus is a double-stranded DNA virus, where the human is the only host, and it has infected more than 70% of the global population, and has a tendency to become dormant for lifelong, but may reactivate with immunosuppression. So there's a difference between CMV infection and CMV disease. CMV infection is the isolation of CMV virus or detection of viral protein and nucleic acid in any body fluid or tissue specimen. And CMV disease is when there is an evidence of end organ damage due to CMV, evidenced by organ damage as well as the cytopathic viral effect or high levels of viral replication. So how do we diagnose CMV infection, and how do we diagnose CMV disease? In case of IBD, it would be intestinal disease. So CMV infection would be evidenced either by serology when we have positive IgG or IgM against CMV, CMV antigenemia when we can document the PP65 antigen in the peripheral blood leukocytes, or a positive CMV PCR in the blood. CMV disease requires 2 components. One, the evidence of end organ damage. So in cases of IBD, evidence of endoscopic and clinical severity, and the documentation of CMV in the tissue. So either this can be documented either by inclusion body on the intestinal biopsy on histopathology specimen, or a positive immunohistochemistry for the immediate early antigen of CMV, or a positive PCR for the cytomegalovirus. So infection is when there is evidence of virus, but no evidence of disease. Disease when there is evidence of organ damage and also the evidence of virus in the tissue. Now, what's the prevalence of CMV in ulcerative colitis? So this was a nice systematic review published in 2016. So interestingly, there were 21 definitions for infection, 8 definitions for disease, and 3 definitions for reactivation. So the prevalence depends upon the definition used, the underlying setting, that is the patient's underlying status, whether it's immunocompromised or immunocompetent, and the underlying disease severity. And if we look at the latent infection, which is only the evidence of positive CMV IgG, then it is not different between ulcerative colitis and healthy controls as evidenced by this meta-analysis. But if we look at the definitions, other definitions, then if we look at the CMV infection, then the highest prevalence has been documented by the presence of CMV antigenemia as high as 40 to 50%. And if we look at the CMV intestinal disease, then highest prevalence has been documented by tissue PCR of more than 10 copies per milligram. Histopathology for inclusion body and IHC has shown prevalence of about 5 to 10%. Now, if we look at this ladder, so the prevalence of CMV increases with increasing severity of ulcerative colitis. So in healthy controls, there is no evidence of CMV disease have been documented, even in patients who have inactive ulcerative colitis, wherein the mucosal biopsies have been taken, or when the patients have undergone colectomy for dysplasia, the evidence of CMV disease has been less than 5%. Patients with mild to moderate UC, very few studies, but about 20 to 30% evidence of CMV disease. Patient with severe UC, this prevalence increases to about 30 to 40%, and it is highest in patients with steroid refractory UC, where it is as high as 60 to 70%. If you look at the Indian data, then this was study from AIIMS published in 2009, where patients with active UC, about 8% had positive PCR for CMV in the biopsy, and this study from ILBS showed evidence of evidence of CMV infection about 31% patients with ulcerative colitis. Now, the prevalence of CMV is high in UC, especially in patients with severe disease and steroid refractory disease. So why is it so? So if you look at the pathogenesis of CMV reactivation in UC, then there are two components: the UC-associated immune dysregulation, wherein there is NK cell dysfunction, which gives the chance for CMV to replicate; elevated tumor necrosis factor alpha, which again is beneficial for the virus in terms of its replication, and other cytokines such as interleukin 6 and interleukin 4 also propagate the virus. The associated immunosuppression such as immunomodulators or steroids directly aggravate or increase the CMV replication, and by causing T lymphocyte inhibition, again give the virus a chance to replicate. So if we combine these, the UC-associated inflammation, especially TNF alpha, gives the chance for monocytes to convert into macrophages, which are the house for CMV. And there is a vicious cycle of inflammation and immunosuppression, which increases the chances of CMV reactivation and CMV replication. So this would account for higher prevalence of CMV in patients with ulcerative colitis. Now, what are the risk factors for CMV colitis? Across all studies, the important factors which have emerged include severe disease, steroid resistance, immunosuppressant use, as evidenced by this meta-analysis of 16 studies, where steroid and thiopurine exposure was associated with increased rate of CMV reactivation, but there was no association with anti-TNF. Advanced age, a shorter disease duration, and extensive disease have also been heterogeneously associated with higher chances of CMV colitis. So the association between infliximab and cytomegalovirus. This was a recent letter published in JCC, where they prospectively evaluated the CMV kinetics in patients who had received infliximab. So 12 patients all had positive CMV virus in the biopsy, but at the end of 14 weeks, more than 80% patients had become negative without any adverse clinical outcome. Again, if we look at other studies, then in patients who have CMV disease, who have severe disease, steroid refractory disease, and have evidence of CMV infection, the combination of infliximab and ganciclovir did not alter the outcome. So infliximab did not increase the chances of adverse outcomes such as colectomy or worsening of disease. Similarly, in patients who have CMV infection, either by IgG positivity or CMV PCR positivity, this infliximab administration does not lead to increased chances of CMV reactivation or adverse outcome. So infliximab neither affects the outcome of CMV disease nor the outcome of CMV infection in patients with ulcerative colitis. Now, what effect does CMV have on the outcomes? So if we look at each outcome one by one, then CMV and steroid resistance, 3 meta-analyses all have shown that the prevalence of CMV in patients with steroid resistance is significantly higher, up to 50 to 70%, than patients who don't have steroid resistance, with the odds ratio of about 2. And even in pediatric studies in patients with acute severe colitis, the presence of CMV was associated with higher steroid resistance as compared to those who were CMV negative. Influence on other outcomes. So there is heterogeneity at every aspect. So there was heterogeneity in terms of definition, there was heterogeneity in terms of prevalence, and there is heterogeneity in the literature in terms of effect of CMV on outcomes. So if we look at colectomy, then both short-term and long-term rates of colectomy in many studies have been associated with CMV, wherein the CMV was either defined by IHC positivity, positive of inclusion bodies, or high PCR or high tissue viral load. However, there were few studies which only defined CMV qualitatively. The outcomes between CMV positive and CMV negative patients were same in terms of colectomy. Other outcomes such as hospitalization, hospital stay, inpatient mortality, and post-operative complications have also been associated with CMV, especially when there was evidence of CMV disease in the form of IHC positivity, high viral load, or presence of inclusion body on the biopsy. Now, what effect does CMV have on outcomes in patients with acute severe ulcerative colitis? So this was a study, again, a joint effort by Saransh and Pavitro, our DM students, wherein they looked at a cohort of 76 patients with acute severe colitis, of which 40% had steroid failure. So the CMV DNA was significantly higher in patients with steroid failure, and the CMV DNA of more than 2,000 copies per gram was an independent predictor of steroid failure. If CMV was defined by positive IHC or positive for inclusion body, again, in these two studies of 50 and 150 patients, CMV was associated with higher steroid resistance, higher need for rescue therapy, and more long-term risk of colectomy. CMV has also been associated with toxic megacolon, and studies have documented higher prevalence of CMV in patients with toxic megacolon as compared to those without. So CMV, though heterogeneously, but has been associated with poor outcomes such as colectomy, steroid resistance, increased rate of disease flare, acute severe colitis, higher need for rescue therapy, especially when it has been defined by high viral load, high tissue density of CMV antigen, or by presence of inclusion body in the biopsies. Now, the another evidence on the role of CMV in determining the outcome of patients is the evidence of or a positive correlation between the higher CMV burden in the tissue and adverse outcomes in patients with ulcerative colitis. So if the higher CMV burden is defined by the tissue DNA, there have been different cutoffs in different studies, and tissue copies of more than 250 to more than 2,000 copies per milligram of tissue has been associated with steroid refractoriness and colectomy. Similarly, if the burden was defined by immunohistochemistry, then higher density evidenced by 2 to more than 10 cells positive for IHC per biopsy section again has been associated with higher steroid dose, surgery, and steroid resistance. So there is some evidence that CMV may either be a marker of severe disease or may be pathogenic, especially when we consider these studies which have correlated higher tissue burden of CMV with adverse outcomes in patients with IBD. Now, another aspect of endoscopic severity. So there are again heterogeneity in this also. So there are studies which have shown that evidence of deep ulcers, punched out ulcers, cobblestone-like appearance, or a wide mucosal defect has been seen more often in patients who have CMV positivity as compared to those who have not. And the CMV viral burden also has been correlated with these findings, as in this study which showed that there were more IHC positive cells in patients with punched out ulcer and higher grade of pathological inflammation. However, another study of around 180 patients did not show any evidence of difference between these endoscopic findings between CMV positive and CMV negative disease. So again, there is some heterogeneity, but overall the literature points towards higher endoscopic severity, especially if the patient has CMV disease documented by the higher CMV burden and clinically severe disease in the background of steroid refractoriness. So how do we distinguish whether CMV is an innocent bystander or it's a marker of severe disease or it's pathogenic in its own? So a CMV could be an innocent bystander, or we can define it as a low-grade CMV infection, where there is less severe, or even if there is severe disease on endoscopy, there is absence of characteristic lesions, and the CMV burden is low, documented by low CMV DNA in blood or tissue, negative inclusion bodies, and negative IHC or less Dutch INC in the biopsy. So a severe disease, CMV as a marker of severe disease, or CMV as a pathogenic agent, or high-grade CMV colitis can be defined in the presence of clinically severe disease, endoscopy showing deep, irregular or punched out ulcers, and evidence of higher CMV burden, either by IHC or by tissue PCR or by positive inclusion body on biopsy. So we have learned that CMV in prevalence is high. CMV can be an infection or can cause disease. CMV disease should be suspected in patients who have severe disease, steroid refractory disease, and there is higher CMV burden or high-grade CMV colitis. So in this setting, we need to diagnose CMV colitis. So how do we diagnose it? Before diagnosing, there are certain clinical predictors which I've already talked about, that a patient who has medically refractory disease, patient with endoscopically deep ulcers, background of immunosuppressant use, elderly patients, or patient with extensive colitis have a higher chance of having CMV. So these are the patients in whom CMV colitis should be suspected, and these patients should be further investigated. So if you look at the guidelines, the ECO guidelines on infections in IBD published last week suggest that patients with refractory IBD should be tested for CMV colitis, especially if they're not responding to immunosuppressive therapy. The BSG guideline also suggests that patients with moderate to severe colitis, particularly those with steroid refractory disease, should have colonic biopsies to look for CMV disease. Now, how do we test for CMV? Is there any role of blood test? The blood tests such as PP65 antigenemia, CMV PCR, or IgM CMV have poor sensitivity, though they have reasonable specificity, but they don't identify the organ damage. There is no definite cutoff. So as standalone test, the blood test cannot be done alone to diagnose CMV colitis or CMV disease. So we need tissue test. We do endoscopic biopsy, and on endoscopic biopsy, if there is inclusion body, it is suggestive of CMV disease, but the sensitivity is low. IHC has a better sensitivity, but it has a longer turnaround time. And tissue PCR, especially if it is quantitative, although the cutoff has still not been defined, it is heterogeneous, but a quantitative tissue PCR has the advantage of having a rapid turnaround time. Results can be obtained within a day, and a higher cutoff has been associated with CMV disease and adverse outcome. Now, if we have to diagnose CMV, where do we take biopsies? So biopsies should be taken from the inflamed area. Ideally, it is suggested to take biopsy from the base of the ulcer, but in the presence of deep ulcer, there would be a risk of bleeding and perforation. So biopsy from the ulcer edge should be sufficient. For patients with ulcerative colitis, left colonic biopsies are sufficient. Although a study suggested that a minimum of 11 biopsies is required for 80% probability of detecting a positive result, but practically it would be difficult to take 11 biopsies. So biopsies from the inflamed area, from the ulcer edge, and left colonic biopsies should be taken to diagnose CMV. Now, what are the recommendations to diagnose CMV? As per ECO, IHC or tissue PCR or both are essential to confirm active CMV infection. But important to note that these findings and potential intervention should be discussed in the clinical context. As per the BSG, again, colonic biopsy to look for CMV disease either by H&E staining or preferably also by immunohistochemistry or quantitative tissue PCR to diagnose CMV disease. Now, the another question is that if CMV is causing disease, then there should be improvement with the antivirals. Again, there is heterogeneity here. The literature is not consistent, but some consistencies can be drawn if we look at the literature in detail. So studies wherein the antiviral has been administered in patients who had a higher CMV burden, evidenced by higher CMV DNA or higher IHC density or positive IHC. So in these studies, administration of antivirals improved the outcomes in terms of low risk of colectomy and improved long-term outcomes. However, there are studies which do not suggest this also, especially in the studies which have used a quantitative PCR or even studies which have used a qualitative PCR. There are some studies which have either suggested a marginal benefit or no effect of CMV treatment on the outcomes.
Dr. Saurabh, kindly wind up.
Yeah, 2 minutes. So this study, this systematic review summarizes the findings. So 15 studies, although there was no effect of antiviral treatment overall, but in patients with corticosteroid refractory disease, especially when the CMV was diagnosed by IHC positivity or H&E positivity, there was evidence for benefit with antiviral treatment. So when do we start antiviral treatment? A patient who has a severe disease player in a background of immunosuppressant use, with endoscopically severe disease and high-grade CMV colitis should be treated with antiviral. So we usually start with IV ganciclovir for 3 to 5 days, followed by oral valganciclovir for a duration of 3 weeks. Another important question, do we need to stop immunosuppressant when we are diagnosing patient with CMV colitis? So again, depends upon the intensity of disease and the intensity of CMV colitis. So for patient with high-grade colitis, steroids need to be tapered fastly as a be continued. Low-grade CMV colitis, all the immunosuppressants can be continued. So to conclude, a brief algorithm. So patient with inactive UC or a mild to moderate UC without immunosuppression use, no testing for CMV is required. Patient with severe UC flare, background immunosuppression use and steroid refractoriness needs to be tested for CMV on endoscopy. So if there is inclusion body on endoscopy, if there is high CMV density, or if the tissue PCR viral load is high, patient should be treated with antiviral with or without anti-TNF. If the results are moderate, IHC is positive, but the density is low, or the viral load is intermediate, then we look at the endoscopic findings. If there are characteristic lesions on endoscopy, antivirals may be considered. If no, then the immunosuppression should be escalated. If the viral load is very low, or if there is no evidence of CMV infection, then the immunosuppression needs to be escalated. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Saurabh, for such a lucid talk. Since we have shortage of time, we'll close this session, and I'd like to thank my co-chair, Professor A.K. Sharma and Dr. Nitin. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir, for